One of Ben Shapiro's lackeys, Michael Knowles, decided to give us a lecture as to why he believes the Electoral College is actually a good thing. Let's hear him out, and then we'll talk about it. Take a look.
You have Elizabeth Warren calling for the abolition of the Electoral College. It's not just her. Beto O'Rourke just today came out and said, yeah, there's a lot of wisdom to abolishing the Electoral College. The Electoral College, one of our oldest institutions for one of our most important decisions, which is electing the president. And you now have the mainstream candidates of the Democrat Party calling for its abolition. Why? What is the purpose of the Electoral College? It has a few purposes. One, it's to restrain pure democracy. Very good. Very important. That's a wonderful thing. What is another purpose of the Electoral College? Doesn't just restrain democracy. Let's say all of the American people voted for super duper mecha Hitler or somebody, or they elected, Stalin Jr. to be president. The Electoral College could come out and say, nope, sorry, we are going to disagree with the American people. We're going to elect Barron Trump or somebody. They're going to elect a good candidate. So there's that aspect. The other way that they do it is by removing the vote for president 1 or 2 degrees from the people, which is very important because the people don't elect the president. The people participate in votes in their states to choose electors to elect the president, but the people don't elect the president. We are not a democracy. We are a democratic republic. We have a representational system of government. This is very important. It's important for the preservation of liberty because once you have more and more and more and more direct democracy, you see liberty disappear. The tyranny of a mob is just as bad, it's actually worse than the tyranny of a dictator or of a bad monarch or somebody like that. Now calling to abolish that. Now they're going to abolish the electors, they're going to abolish the Electoral College, but don't worry because a major Democrat, if not the leading Democrat in the country, Nancy Pelosi, is calling to allow 16-year-olds to vote. So we want to destroy the Electoral College, but then we want to expand the electorate to include 16-year-olds. Why? In her words, so that she can capture them when they're kids, when they're impressionable, when they're immature, when they're juvenile, when they're uneducated, when they are being indoctrinated by leftists in the school system.
I love how, Michael Knowles, when he says stuff, he thinks that, what he's saying is popular and obvious. But what's hilarious about his entire argument there is he said so many things that, any typical American would say, are you crazy? Are you nuts? Are you literally nuts? So let's talk about some of the things that he said and why we should have an Electoral College. And I'm going to break apart every single one of his arguments because they're super, super contradicting. So let's talk about his first reason for having the Electoral College. His main primary reason was that the Electoral College restrains pure democracy. It restrains mob rule, which is true. The Electoral College does restrict pure democracy. And he said, and that's a good thing because of reasons. And here's his reasons. It prevents people like Hitler from being president. It prevents Stalin Jr. from being the president. Okay, so I did my research. And I looked into the German election of 1932 when Hitler was elected by an electoral college. First off, Hitler wasn't elected. The other guy was Paul von Hindenburg. Paul von Hindenburg was elected, and then he elected Hitler as chancellor. So, he's this guy, Michael Knowles, is saying things like, yeah, we need to prevent Hitler from going into power. Yeah, but that's apples and oranges. But ironically, Paul von Hindenburg was elected by the Electoral College of Germany in 1932. And on top of that, they had a popularity vote. He won at 53% in that election. So understand, this argument is stupid. Now, it's obviously stupid, too. And I don't understand why Michael Knowles doesn't, think about this for 10 seconds. If the people vote in Hitler, right? In America, that's about 330 million people that are deciding, I want a Hitler, right? Why is it that 350 million people can vote in Hitler, but 300 people or 500 people, whatever it is, I don't know the number off the top of my head. So over 500, I think. Why is it that they don't want to elect Hitler? Why do they know more about the Hitlers out there, right? Why can they sniff out a Stalin Jr. better than 330 million Americans? And this guy's response would probably be like, well, because, we elect representatives who are smart. But then you run into a cyclical argument where you're saying, okay, why is it that the people that you elect, why are they smart? Because the people who are elected are, again, the people. It all stems back down to the people. Apparently, the people are good at electing electors to elect people. That doesn't make any sense, because at that point, it's still the people deciding who's being elected ultimately. And so the only thing that can be involved here is corruption. And so let's talk about this real quick. He mentioned how people elect electors who elect the president. That is not true. The people in the Electoral College are not elected by us. Tell me, Michael Knowles, who was the last electoral colleague that you voted for? Oh yeah, you can't, because you don't decide who the Electoral College is. Some representative democracy, huh? Representative democracy. And at some point, this is hilarious. He even said, we are a democratic republic, which is true, by the way. He is correct about that. I wish we were a direct democracy. I love the concept of mob rule, right? People frame it as mob rule, but it's populism. Populism is the best model of government, in my view. But he calls it mob rule. He says, we are a democratic republic. That means we have a representative. And then he paused. And I love it because he goes like this. He says, we have a representative system of government. The reason why he paused there, it's really important to understand. The definition of democratic republic is it's a representative democracy. It's a representative democracy. But he didn't want to say democracy because his entire argument was that he wanted to restrain pure democracy. And so he says, we have a representative system of government. Just say it. Just say it. Please say it. I want you to say the textbook definition. Please. Representative democracy. It's still a democracy. It's a republic. We live in a republic, which is a democratic republic, and it's meaning that it's a representative democracy. And then last but not least, he said, mob rule is worse than a monarchy. Meaning, his argument is that 330 million people make worse popular choices that are really, really uneducated and terrible for the country. It leads to worse. It's what is it called? He called it. It restricts our liberty. It's an attack on our liberty. That was basically what he was saying. It's much worse than a monarchy. Mob rule is much worse than a monarchy. That was his argument. Are you serious? Think about that for 5 seconds. 330 million people versus one person. How is 330 million people making a decision with populism worse than one person getting to decide all the rules for himself? And if you look at any dictatorship, they instill policies that benefit themselves because they have a monarchy. And what's hilarious is this guy loves Trump, who supports 73% of the world's dictatorships. So he attacks monarchies and he attacks mob rules as if they're bad, but he likes the president who supports monarchies. He supports monarchies. 73% of them. You guys remember when Saudi Arabia had an election? This was Bernie Sanders' argument. This is a great argument. You guys remember Saudi Arabia's last election? No, because they never had one. Oh, but we're best friends. They're our guys. No, the guy kills journalists. So let me give you my position real quick, and let me explain why I like a direct democracy better. Understand this, that there is nothing wrong with pure democracy. The reasons what he gave, which is we prevented Hitler from being president, are obviously not true. Look at, for example, Hitler, Stalin. people that were voted into using electoral college systems, representative democracies. What was your argument again? I'm sorry. What was that? I didn't hear you. You said electoral colleges are good because they prevent Hitlers? Wrong. So that was the only argument he gave. So we're done here, right? Restrained pure democracy, why? Because the people don't know better? Because apparently, Barack Obama knows better than the public? I would argue the public knew a lot more than Barack Obama or George Bush or Donald Trump or you name it. You give me any president. And the people knew better. I'm serious about that too. Consider even something like Abraham Lincoln. A good chunk of the North agreed with Abraham Lincoln, guys. People think like he was fighting against the populism. No, he wasn't. He passed the amendment. The 13th Amendment was passed because he had enough representatives and districts that supported the 13th Amendment. Meaning that it was popular. It was popular at the time too. Now, it wasn't popular with the South, obviously, but I don't care. It was overwhelmingly popular. Majority. It's all mob rule. It's great. I love it. We need a direct democracy. We absolutely need a direct democracy. And I don't like how we elect people that elect our president. Because then you can ask this inductive question. And this is what I would ask Michael Knowles. Well, what if those electors elect a Hitler? Maybe we should elect electors who elect electors who elect the president. Why not that one? You don't like that system? What's wrong with that one? Basically what I'm saying is, why don't you have an electoral college that elects an electoral college that elects the Hitler? You understand the problem here, right? It's an inductive system that doesn't work. Just because you have this security system of an electoral college that prevents Hitler's, which actually doesn't, because Hitler was put into power from an electoral college system of government, and same thing with Stalin at the time, at least. Like, you got to understand, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They don't know their history. They pretend like they know what they're talking about, but they don't. And that's typically why I don't like Ben Shapiro, is because Ben Shapiro, he talks really fast, makes really fast arguments and says things that are like, right versus wrong is the same thing as truth versus false. It's hilarious because right and wrong is a moral thing and truth and false is an ontological thing. But nonetheless, guy's a moron, talks really fast, sounds really cool, but he's a moron still. Utopia for Realists really should be the first book you read if you want to know more about progressive policies. To get your free audiobook, go to the description below and click on the link to sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com.